production of Broad and High is funded in part by the Greater Columbus Arts Council, supporting arts, advancing culture, and connecting the community to artists, events, and classes at columbusmakesart.com.
PNC, committed to Central Ohio, for the achiever in you. From these contributing sponsors and viewers like you, thank you.
This time on Broad and High.
And I like to tell stories, and I like to make people laugh.
We'll explore the wickedly funny art of filmmaker John Waters, currently on view at the Wex. Learn about the preservation and restoration of classic films happening right here in Columbus. And photographs from the 1914 polar expedition of Sir Ernest Shackleton are presented in stunning new detail. This and more right now on Broad and High. Hey everyone, welcome back to Broad and High. I'm your host, Kate Quickle. John Waters is probably best known for his cult films like Pink Flamingos, Hairspray, and Crybaby, but you might not know that he also has a parallel career as a visual artist. His work, currently on view at the Wexner Center, features a comprehensive collection of photographs, sculptures, and audiovisual pieces that he has been producing since the early 90s. And you'll find that his art is very much like his films, subverting mainstream expectations with a wickedly funny level of provocative kitsch. Here's a sneak peek.
John Waters is someone who the Wexner Center has been friendly with since 1999. He was here in his guise as a filmmaker. I knew vaguely that he also was kind of venturing into the art world as a visual artist.
Yeah, a lot of my fans have no idea I did this, and I very purposely kept it separate.
And he's very modest about the very kind of lowbrow, low-tech means of production. And so for him, it's all about telling stories.
I'm trying to kind of discover all the stuff, the insider jokes of what can go wrong in show business, the art world, and editing, and mistakes. I started by just taking pictures off the TV screen. You can't get lower tech than that.
He's always said he works from the aesthetic of a fan. He only makes work about things he likes, but the things he likes are the things he likes making fun of, which are movies, the art world, celebrities, gossip, things like that.
I do make fun of celebrity art. I hate it too. Justin, who I met and liked, and he drew on my mustache once when he was in London. This is in LA, people start getting facelifts when they're really young, and I try to imagine, why would you do that? Because they all just look like surprised aliens. They don't look old though. Joan Rivers didn't look old. She looked bizarre, but she didn't look old. But why would you want to look like that when you're 20? That's like really scary, I think. The only mean-spirited one here at all, it's not that mean, is the one that just says starring Melissa Rivers. Now, there has never been that shot that's made up, because that would mean she would have top billing, and that has not happened yet. But I like to imagine that movie, sort of. The scariest piece in the whole thing is called 9/11, but all it is, it's the shots of the most forgotten movies, Dr. Dolittle 2, Nightmare. Those were the movies that were playing on the planes in 9/11, but they never got to even put them in. So they would have been seen. So that's at least positive they weren't watching it. So that's what I'm always trying to do, to get you to look at something in a completely different way. The first thing I always do is what would make me laugh.
His kind of breakthrough film was called Pink Flamingos, and it was kind of notorious for what bad taste it was in. And a couple of years ago, he gathered a group of children in Beverly Hills and did a table reading by children of the script of Pink Flamingos. So that's in the show.
Well, there's one whole series I did called Marks, which is when I was making a film called Pecker. I noticed that every day in every movie, the crew puts down tape marks right before you do a shot where the actor has to hit that to stay in focus. You never see them in a movie because the camera cuts off there. So when everybody cleared the set, before we moved on, I saw them there and realized they were drawings, basically, that someone did for me without knowing it. So I started photographing them. So they were movie stills that what was in it was the only thing that can't be in a movie still. Can art be funny? We all know contemporary art is witty, but can it be funny? And I have a piece that sort of satirizes some museums that when they have a collector that what they lend the piece is so valuable, they put an insurance tape on there. So if you get near, it goes bzzz, or something you get too near, it might squirt you in the face. There's one that says contemporary art hates you. It does, it hates the right people. My kids should have done that. Well, stupid, they should have then, because it just sold for $8 billion. Who's the fool? I'm seeing them hanging the show and everybody has on gloves and stuff, moving this thing I had in my house that I thrown in the closet. You know, so I find that delightful. I make fun of it with love because I think it's great that it's magic. That thing that I found in a thrift shop, I finally did it here, it's sold in a gallery, and now it's in a museum. That's a magic trick that I'm proud, and I planned it. And I think the reason I do get away with it is because I make fun of things I like. If you like my movies, you'll like this. I mean, it's the same kind of humor, it's just a different way for me to tell stories, I think. Hopefully.
John Waters' Indecent Exposure is on view at the Wexner Center for the Arts through April 28th. Learn more at wexarts.org. Here in Columbus, there's a small offshoot of the Cohen Media Group, an international film company that produces and distributes theatrical films. It's the Cohen Film Collection, and in addition to housing rare movie classics, its team also works to preserve and restore the hundreds of titles within its archives, including the entire Buster Keaton library. We got an inside peek into this little-known Columbus treasure.
So I'm working on a trailer for one of our Buster Keaton films. It's called Sherlock Jr. The whole premise is that Buster is a wannabe detective. So there's a pretty cool stunt right here where the car literally splits in half and becomes a boat. So I think I like that.
So Cohen Media Group is a distributor of new films and with Cohen Film Collection, classic films from around the world, and a distributor theatrically on home video. We have a Hulu channel. What we do, what other people who are working on restorations do, we have a high-resolution scan made from the best element or elements available to us. And then there's the process of digital cleanup, getting rid of dust and scratches and sparkle.
And I can literally go frame by frame, and if I see something, like this for instance, I can then come over here and make the correction, and the correction's instantaneous or nearly instantaneous.
We recently licensed and are re-releasing a film called Daughters of the Dust by Julie Dash. It's the only feature on the National Registry by an African-American woman. So we're working with UCLA to do part of the restoration. We're going to do some additional cleanup here.
It's 25 years old. It dates back to the very late 80s, very early 90s. It's really a wonderful film on a lot of levels. So we want to make sure that the presentation is as kind of fat and rich and happy as we can possibly make it. There's an emulsion scratch right here that we can get rid of actually very, very easily. And there we go, as new, as if it never existed. If you toggle back and forth, you can kind of see the change or lack of change there. And that's what we're looking for.
There are things that can be done digitally that just could not have been done photochemically. And restoration previous to this sort of digital era was done photochemically.
This shot has actually got some really ugly stuff in it. You can actually see things like printed in hair, and here's a piece of dirt.
We work with a number of great venues in the country and really around the world. And the Wexner Center here in Columbus is a frequent partner and a very valuable partner for us.
I keep saying there has to be somewhere where an audience can go and remember what an image is supposed to look like. You know, we pride ourselves on that. We want people to be able to come here and know that they're seeing something the way it's supposed to be seen. Most of the companies that we deal with are either in New York or Los Angeles, and so it is nice to have one of the companies here in Columbus.
The Cohen Film Collection, to begin, is comprised of hundreds of classic motion pictures dating from 1898 up until the 2000s.
And we're gonna really wrap them up!
And it was amassed beginning in the late 1940s. It's been in Columbus since the mid-1980s. At that time, it was known as the Rohauer Collection, and Raymond Rohauer is the person who actually amassed the collection beginning in the late 40s. He became business partners with Buster Keaton and rescued many of those Keaton films. We have copies of all of his silent films, some of his sound films, and some of the films that he was in prior to having his own production company, so dating back to 1917, 1918. But we also hold at the Library of Congress original film materials. So for instance, we have the original camera negative for what is probably his best known film, The General.
Film is really, in a strange kind of way, film is very alive. That it's been through a life. And that it's also, even though it's chemistry and plastic stuff, it has an organic quality to it. It's very much like people. It ages, it changes. So these tools that we use are our way of helping kind of combat that loss.
Tim Lanza of the Cohen Film Collection will be introducing Battling Butler at the Wex on Sunday, February 24th. In this 1926 film, Buster Keaton plays a rich dandy who must pretend to be a fearsome boxer to win the love of a country girl. Visit wexarts.org for times and details. Now we go from restoring classic film to restoring guitars. Located on Chambers Road in the Grandview area, Guitar House Workshop began as a place to repair and build custom guitars. But since opening in 2009, it has evolved into a community where customers can watch luthiers working in full view, sample the fretted instruments on display, watch an oil painting in progress, and perhaps give studio dog Louie a pat on the head.
What makes the guitar unique is it's an orchestra in your hand. This is Guitar House Workshop. We are a music store, primarily fretted instruments, so guitars, mandolin, banjos, ukuleles, things like that. We have the repair side and building, which is my background.
And upstairs we have a lesson program with 8 teachers currently. All of them are musicians in their own right, which is kind of cool. And I paint musicians.
You know, we're really 2 artists trying to run a business.
I think that's got a little more sound. I do too, I think especially the lower.
A guitar, over time, there's a certain amount of tension on it, and it pulls on the guitar. Weather conditions can change it. A part can just break. People drop their guitars. A gentleman just dropped off his broken headstock. He looked very worried. We see those kind of things all the time. We're kind of backed up with that kind of work. There's always a broken guitar, you know.
And because the guys are visible, doing repairs, and people enjoy coming in and being able to talk to the luthiers, you know, instead of just dropping an instrument off, fix it. So they tend to come and hang, and you know, when they come, they're on holiday.
So this guitar, when it came in, had a lot of problems, and it still looks fairly worn, but I like this repair because the customer, it belonged at one time to a friend of his who now has passed on. A custom guitar or a solid wood guitar will definitely age and change if it's taken care of. And it's played. It needs to be played. The more it gets played, the better it sounds. And the main thing that was wrong with it was there was a big damaged area here. It really took an impact, and it was loose. The top was loose. And so we replaced after we cleated the top and had to rebuild some things, and of course you have to destroy part of it to get to the area. We rebuilt that and redid the binding. Linda helped with the color on that to make it match. We don't want it to look perfect because it's still an old guitar. Linda is really added a lot to my craft, actually. You know, I view things a little differently. I approach it more like an artist as opposed to a repair guy, which I'm fine being a repair guy, but there is an artistry to it that I really enjoy. And we get to shape the business how we want it to be. And hopefully that attracts, you know, the clientele that we currently have. And then the other part was the headstock had been repaired, so it was broken and kind of flopping around. And this headstock, what we did was actually cut a section of it out and trued that up, and then we rebuilt that. And so now it's really stable and really strong, and it's a nice old Gibson. If it were in tune, it'd sound even better.
I started doing musical imagery, or maybe focusing on musical imagery, several years ago with the Ohio State Marching Band. Realized I really liked horns. I liked the sound of horns. My dad played horn. I like the reflections in horns, those kind of things. I like the interaction of musicians and crowds. And from there, I became really interested in New Orleans. You know, it's got all the problems that are everywhere else in this country, maybe magnified. But people still celebrate with music. You know, you're born to music, you get married to music, you get buried to music. Met John here when my son was taking lessons, started painting on location here because I found I was immersed in the musical world here, and I was painting with musicians around me, and I stayed.
We try to tell people, try to make it not intimidating for anybody to come in here and just because they want to play. Everybody has that desire. I don't care who you are. Everybody wants to play guitar and sing a song at some point in their life, and you should try.
Those sound pretty nice.
Guitar House Workshop hosts small group classes and jam sessions, as well as private lessons in guitar, bass, banjo, ukulele, and mandolin. Visit guitarhouseworkshop.com for details. In 1914, polar explorer Sir Ernest Shackleton set sail in his ship Endurance with the intent to cross Antarctica from coast to coast. With him was a crew of 27 men, including photographer Frank Hurley, but they never arrived at their destination. Instead, the ship became trapped in pack ice and was slowly crushed before finally sinking. Miraculously, the entire crew survived the 2-year ordeal, and in a recent photo exhibition at the Bowers Museum in California, Hurley's intrepid documentation of the expedition was on view in stunning new detail.
He hired Frank Hurley to be his photographer, who was the best of the best at the time. He put together an amazing team, but then to get stuck in the ice for almost 2 years, to me is an amazing story, and then to have them all make it back alive. It's just an extraordinary story.
The whole point of having Hurley there was to then create the film and the stills photography, which would then be sold on their return to Britain, and the money from those sales would effectively underwrite the costs of the expedition for Shackleton. I think Shackleton's a very modern communicator. He and Hurley have a real skill in communicating ideas about what they're trying to do and modulating what they are doing, because they've failed in the idea of reaching to cross the continent. So where are we now? We're in a situation where we're all in peril, but we're still going to keep recording and documenting what we do, because that story is going to be even perhaps more important than the story of crossing the Antarctic.
But my grandfather was aware of the importance of photographs and media, because like all expeditions, they had to pay their debts, so they could do that by lecturing and writing and having exhibitions. Also, of course, above all, to get the story out there, because it was such a novelty then. A lot of people were quite vague about where the Antarctic was and probably thought polar bears lived there.
We think there were about 400 negatives, glass plate negatives, that had been processed by Hurley, and we have 98 in the Society's collections. So there is, I think, another 30 to 40 that have never been discovered. The reason why Hurley destroyed the glass plates on the edge of the ship as it sank was that he didn't want the other men to take them as souvenirs. So he had done a pre-edit on the photographs. And the ones that he chose, I think, are the best. I think he did an edit that was just perfect in terms of the very best quality pictures. If you look at the pantheon of great photographers, Hurley is there. And I know, speaking to many documentary filmmakers and photographers, they absolutely recognise his contribution. Many of them have been inspired by him. And I think going forward over the next generations, that won't diminish. The story of the leadership is such an exceptional one. I think we can all learn something from what Shackleton does. And I do think it's a really modern approach. I think it could have happened yesterday with the right people in charge, with the right set of skills, and this idea of communicating with his men and saying, this is what we're going to do, we are going to get to safety. It's a very modern concept. There's a very famous picture called The Night Watchman. And if you look in the photograph, there is this very ghostly fifth face now that appears in the background. The one thing we haven't been able to do is to identify who it is, but that wasn't seen before. And then in many of the photographs, you see the kind of mid-ground detail has just opened up. The other ones that I love are the ones where you have depth of field. So the pictures of the interior of the ship, the Ritz as they described it, you can now see each of the different rooms, each of the little cubicles and the names they gave to them. And maybe the best one is a photograph of the interior of Shackleton's cabin, which has all of the books from their library there. Before, you couldn't read the spines, now you know exactly what they were reading. So you can see they have a whole set of the Encyclopedia Britannica.
The sheer beauty of the images gets most people interested.
These photographs are given an opportunity to see what it was like 100 years ago. But there's the whole art side of this, the whole concept of these platinum prints and how these glass plates survived, and how beautiful they really are. They're as fine as any black and white photography I know of.
That's our show. You can find all our stories online at WOSU.org and give us a follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're leaving you today with music by the Salty Caramels, based right here in Columbus. For all of us at WOSU, I'm Kate Quickle. Be sure to join us back here next week for more great stories on Broad and High.
At showing love, I end up pushing you, shoving you away. I really do fuss and fight. Nothing I say ever seems to come out right. Now it's the end. I know I can't stay. Oh baby, baby, I'm gonna
I wanted to work with mirror, because mirror is this sort of device that, though it looks like a sensorial device or material, it's actually very mental, because it demands a comprehension and understanding of how the device works to understand what you're seeing. The effects are sort of unpredictable, because it is a multiplying device. And this sort of surprise that comes in the process of mounting and more than mounting and installing, it comes from the presence of the work in the place, with people interacting with it or just being around it, with the use of it. When it's done, it starts to exist in a way that you couldn't predict totally. When you add something that affects the presence of light, then it's less subliminal. Then you have to see it. You can take it for granted. And then you start to speculate and to try to understand its presence.
Catch Columbus at its creative best on Broad and High, Thursday nights at 8 o'clock on WOSU TV.
Production of Broad and High is funded in part by the Greater Columbus Arts Council, supporting arts, advancing culture, and connecting the community to artists, events, and classes at columbusmakesart.com.
PNC, committed to Central Ohio, for the achiever in you. From these contributing sponsors and viewers like you, thank you.